What's going on? Wrestling vs. Family. Welcome back to another episode, and if this is your first time here, you're about to witness one of the most emotional stories in WWE right now, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button because you do not want to miss what we're about to break down today. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Two names that are forever intertwined in WWE history. Brothers who conquered the industry together. Rivals who tore each other apart. And now, in a moment that has the entire wrestling world talking, we're seeing a side of their relationship that nobody expected. After a devastating betrayal on Monday Night Raw that left Seth Rollins in the hospital, Roman Reigns did something that shocked everyone. He showed up at that hospital. The tribal chief himself, walking through those doors to see his former Shield brother in his most vulnerable moment. What happened on Raw? Why did Roman visit Seth? And what does this mean for both superstars moving forward? We're diving deep into every single detail, analyzing the emotions, the history, and the future implications of this incredible moment. But before we get started, smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's jump into this story. Let's set the stage for what went down on Monday Night Raw, because what we witnessed wasn't just another wrestling angle. This was personal, brutal, and absolutely heartbreaking. Seth Rollins walked into that arena expecting a lot of things, but what happened to him that night will go down as one of the most shocking betrayals in recent WWE history. Seth has been dealing with a lot lately. The pressure of carrying Raw on his shoulders, dealing with injuries, fighting through pain to show up for the WWE Universe week after week. He's been a warrior in every sense of the word. But even warriors have limits, and what happened on Raw pushed Seth past his breaking point. The setup was perfect from a storytelling perspective. Seth was scheduled for a big match that had major implications for his championship status and his position in the company. The crowd was electric, the energy in the arena was at an all-time high, and Seth came out ready to prove once again why he's one of the best in the business. But then everything changed in an instant. The betrayal came from someone Seth trusted, someone he considered family, someone who he thought had his back no matter what. The attack was vicious, calculated, and designed to inflict maximum damage. We're talking about a brutal assault that went beyond the normal boundaries of a wrestling beatdown. This was personal, and everyone watching knew it. The specifics of the attack were horrifying to watch. Multiple finishers, weapon shots, and an assault that continued even after Seth was clearly unable to defend himself. The referees tried to intervene, security tried to pull the attacker away, but the damage was done. Seth Rollins lay in the middle of that ring, clutching his ribs, his back, barely able to move. The silence from the crowd said it all. This wasn't entertainment anymore, this felt real. Medical staff rushed to the ring immediately. The cameras captured every agonizing moment as trainers assessed Seth's condition right there in the ring. You could see the concern on their faces, the urgency in their movements. This wasn't part of the show. This was a genuine medical emergency unfolding in front of millions of viewers. The decision was made quickly. Seth needed to go to a local medical facility immediately for evaluation. The stretcher came out, and watching Seth Rollins, one of the toughest guys in WWE, being loaded onto that stretcher and wheeled out of the arena was gut-wrenching. Fans were crying, chanting Seth's name, trying to show their support for a man who has given everything to this business. As Seth was being taken away, the gravity of what just happened began to sink in. Social media exploded. Wrestling journalists started reporting that Seth was being taken to a nearby hospital for X-rays and further evaluation. The concern was real, and the WWE Universe held its collective breath waiting for updates. Now here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Hours after the attack, after Seth had been transported to the hospital and was undergoing tests, word started to spread backstage that someone else was on their way to that same hospital. Someone who nobody expected to show up. Roman Reigns. The tribal chief himself was leaving whatever he was doing and heading to see Seth Rollins. Think about the significance of this for a moment. Roman Reigns, the most dominant force in WWE, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, the head of the table, taking time out of his schedule to visit someone who hasn't been his ally in years. This is the same Roman who has been ruthless in his pursuit of power and dominance. The same Roman who has shown no mercy to anyone who stands in his way. Yet here he was, making his way to a hospital to check on Seth Rollins. The history between these two men makes this moment even more powerful. Let's take a trip down memory lane, because you can't understand the weight of this hospital visit without understanding what Roman and Seth have been through together. They came up through WWE together as part of the Shield, arguably the most dominant faction in modern WWE history. Roman, Seth, and Dean Ambrose were unstoppable. They revolutionized tag team wrestling, they changed the landscape of WWE, and they built a brotherhood that seemed unbreakable. Those years were magical, and fans still get chills watching old Shield footage. But then came the moment that changed everything. Seth Rollins turned on the Shield, smashing a chair across Roman's back in one of the most shocking moments in WWE history. That betrayal cut deep, not just for Roman but for everyone who believed in the Shield. Seth went on to become WWE champion, while Roman was left to pick up the pieces of a broken brotherhood. Years of rivalry followed. Roman and Seth faced each other countless times, in singles matches, in title matches, in brutal stipulation matches that pushed both men to their limits. They knew each other so well that every match between them was a chess game, each trying to outsmart and outlast the other. The respect was there, buried under layers of animosity and competition, but it was there. Then came moments of reconciliation. The Shield reunited multiple times over the years, proving that despite everything, there was still a bond between these men. They stood together again, fought together again, and reminded everyone why they were special together. But those reunions were always temporary, always cut short by circumstances or personal ambitions. More recently, Roman's transformation into the tribal chief created a new dynamic. This wasn't the same Roman Reigns that Seth had known. This was a more calculating, more ruthless version of his former brother. They existed in different worlds, Roman on SmackDown ruling with an iron fist, Seth on Raw trying to carry his brand. They rarely crossed paths, rarely acknowledged each other, and when they did, it was with a complicated mix of respect and distance. So when news broke that Roman was heading to that hospital, it sent shockwaves through the wrestling community. What was his motivation? Was this a genuine gesture of concern? Was there a deeper story unfolding? The speculation was running wild, and everyone wanted answers. According to sources close to the situation, Roman arrived at the hospital late that evening. He didn't bring cameras, didn't bring his wise men Paul Heyman, didn't bring the bloodline. This was Roman Reigns the person, not the tribal chief the character. He walked into that hospital alone, found out which room Seth was in, and made his way there. Can you imagine what was going through Seth's mind when Roman walked through that door? Here's Seth, lying in a hospital bed, beaten down, vulnerable, probably on pain medication, dealing with the physical and emotional aftermath of a brutal betrayal. And in walks Roman Reigns, his former brother, former rival, former everything. Witnesses who were at the hospital that night, including some WWE personnel who had accompanied Seth, reported that the meeting was emotional. These are two men who have been through wars together and against each other. Two men who understand the sacrifices and pain that come with being at the top of this business. Two men who, despite everything, share a bond that goes deeper than championship gold or main event spots. The conversation between them apparently lasted over an hour. No cameras, no documentation, just two brothers having a real, raw conversation. Roman reportedly asked about Seth's condition, expressed genuine concern about the severity of his injuries, and they talked about everything. The business, their history, the betrayal that just happened, and what it all means. What's particularly powerful about this moment is what it says about both men. For Roman, this visit shows that underneath the tribal chief persona, underneath the ruthless champion who acknowledges no one, there's still a part of him that remembers where he came from and who was there with him. Seth Rollins was there at the beginning. Seth was there when Roman was figuring out who he was as a performer. That history doesn't just disappear. For Seth, having Roman show up in that moment must have meant everything. When you're at your lowest, when you've just been betrayed and you're lying in a hospital bed questioning everything, having someone who truly understands show up and sit with you, that's powerful. That's real. That transcends any storyline or character work. The wrestling world reacted immediately to news of this hospital visit. Social media went crazy with fans sharing their emotions about this moment. Longtime Shield fans were crying, posting old photos and videos of Roman and Seth together in happier times. Wrestling journalists were trying to figure out what this means for future storylines. Everyone had an opinion, everyone had feelings about this. Some fans saw this as the setup for an eventual Shield reunion. Maybe this is the moment that brings Roman and Seth back together, setting the stage for them to team up one more time. The idea of Roman and Seth standing side by side again, especially with Dean Ambrose back in AEW making a potential full Shield reunion complicated, has fans dreaming about the possibilities. Other fans interpreted this as a passing of the torch moment. Roman checking on Seth could symbolize the old guard looking after each other as the new generation rises up. It's a reminder that despite all the competition and rivalry, there's a mutual respect among those who have reached the top of this business. Then there are those who see this as simply two friends checking on each other in a moment of crisis. Sometimes wrestling fans forget that behind the characters are real people with real relationships. Roman and Seth have known each other for over a decade. They've traveled together, trained together, succeeded together. When something happens to someone you've shared that much history with, you show up. It's that simple. From a storytelling perspective, this hospital visit opens up so many possibilities for WWE creative. The most obvious direction is a revenge storyline where Roman helps Seth get payback against whoever attacked him. Imagine the tribal chief lending his power and influence to help his former Shield brother settle a score. The matches, the promos, the drama, it writes itself. Another possibility is that this creates tension for Roman. What if helping Seth conflicts with his responsibilities as the tribal chief? What if the bloodline doesn't approve of Roman showing sympathy to someone outside their family structure? This could create internal conflict for Roman's character and lead to fascinating storytelling. There's also the potential for this to be a one-time moment of humanity that doesn't directly lead to an on-screen partnership. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that show character depth without immediate payoff. Roman visiting Seth in the hospital tells us something important about who Roman really is underneath all the bravado and dominance. That character development is valuable even if it doesn't immediately result in them teaming up on television. What this moment really represents is the evolution of professional wrestling storytelling. Modern wrestling fans appreciate layers, complexity, and emotional truth in their storylines. This isn't just good guys versus bad guys anymore. These are fully developed characters with histories, motivations, and real human emotions. Roman visiting Seth in the hospital after a betrayal feels real because it taps into genuine human experience. The idea that when someone you care about is hurt, you show up, regardless of your current relationship status. The medical update on Seth following this incident is also crucial to discuss. Early reports suggested that Seth suffered multiple contusions, possible fractured ribs, and significant back trauma from the attack on Raw. The hospital tests were meant to rule out anything more serious, including internal injuries or spinal damage. The fact that Roman showed up during this uncertain time, when nobody knew how serious Seth's injuries really were, makes his visit even more meaningful. WWE has been carefully managing the information released about Seth's condition, which is standard practice when dealing with injury angles that blur the line between storyline and reality. They want to keep fans invested and concerned without causing panic or giving away too much about their creative plans. Looking at the bigger picture, this entire situation highlights something special about the Shield legacy. Years after their initial run, these three men, Roman, Seth, and Dean, are still the most talked about subjects in wrestling when they interact. The Shield connection is that powerful. It's a testament to the original vision for that group and the chemistry between the three performers that made it work so perfectly. Fans who witnessed the Shield's rise will never forget those moments. The music hitting, the entrance through the crowd, the coordinated attacks, the dominance. Those memories are permanently etched in wrestling history. And every time Roman, Seth, or Dean acknowledge each other or interact in meaningful ways, it brings all those memories flooding back. That's the power of truly great storytelling and character work. As we wrap this up, the question everyone's asking is, what happens next? Where do Roman and Seth go from here? Does this hospital visit lead to an on-screen reunion? Does it factor into upcoming storylines? Or was this simply a private moment between two men who share an unbreakable history? Only time will tell, but what we know for certain is that this moment mattered. It mattered to fans who have followed these men's careers from the beginning. It mattered to the wrestlers themselves who understand the significance of checking on each other in difficult times. And it matters to the future of WWE storytelling because it proves that the best angles are the ones rooted in real emotion and authentic history. And that's the story. Wrestling vs. Family. Roman Reigns visiting Seth Rollins in the hospital following that heartbreaking betrayal on Raw is one of those moments that transcends normal wrestling news. This is about brotherhood, loyalty, history, and the complicated relationships that make professional wrestling so compelling to follow. What do you think happens next? Will we see Roman and Seth together on our screens soon? Should the Shield reunite one more time? Drop all your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most emotional stories in WWE right now, go ahead and smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to Wrestling Verse with notifications turned on because we'll be covering every development in this story as it unfolds. We're your source for the latest news, analysis, and breakdowns from the world of professional wrestling. Thanks for watching, Wrestling Verse family. Until next time, stay locked in, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.